Hello everyone, welcome to Hobbies with Jose. I'm Jose Carbajal, and on my brand new channel I hope to show you a variety of my hobbies, namely model kits. I do like to do a wide variety of different model kits, namely Gundams, a lot of sci-fi stuff like from Star Trek, Star Wars, things of that nature, and also love Transformers. So I will plan to show you a lot from that, maybe even some of my artwork or even some of the video games that I'm into as well. But for today's first episode, what I'm actually going to show you is going to be a blend of a couple of different things. It's not exactly a model kit, but we're going to customize a Transformer. I'm going to show you the steps that I go through in doing so, and it's going to be Studio Series Shatter. Now, before we get started with that project, I'm going to show you first some of the figures that I've already customized. And on this first one, it's going to be Studio Series Bumblebee, based on the Bumblebee movie. First, I'm going to show you here on the side what the figure looks like out of the box. And when I first saw it, I thought it looked pretty good, a pretty good representation of what he was like in the film. But as with many figures, it has some kibble. There's some car pieces that are just sticking out of his legs and his back that don't represent what it's like in the film, because you can only do so much, especially for the size figure that it was. So what I wanted to do is get rid of that kibble, give him a nice solid good paint job, and then make him look more closely to how he is in the film. Having done that though, of course, you're not able to really transform him after that. The transformation, to be perfectly honest, it left a lot of things to be desired. There were some pegs that just didn't really line up, so it wasn't the greatest of transformation to begin with. I wasn't really concerned with losing that functionality out of the figure. I really wanted to have more of a solid piece that looked closely to what he was like in the film that I can put up on the display case. So let me show you what I ended up with. And here he is, guys. Studio Series Bumblebee, based on the movie. So you can see the changes that I've made to him. I took out all the kibble pretty much from the back, and I've rearranged some sections. I cut out some of the door sides that are on his back, and I just put them in a way that looks closer to what it's like in the movie. And the sections that were sticking out the back, the rear end of the car, I removed those completely. And I was going to take out the tires that are on the legs too, but I ended up keeping them on there. They were a bit too difficult to try to maneuver around, so kept that the way it is. Gave him a fresh paint job, and I did dirty up the yellow a bit to make it look used how he does in the movie, kind of worn down a bit. But overall, I was pretty satisfied with how it turned out. Now, the next figure that I'm going to show you is the boss bot himself, Optimus Prime. Now, when I saw him, there was no question that I was going to pick him up, and I knew I was going to customize him as well. Give him a nice good paint job, see what kibble, mostly some things on the arms that I can get rid of. He had a bit of a boxy back because of the some parts of the truck that I wanted to streamline as well. So let me show you what that one ended up looking like. And here is Studio Series Optimus Prime. You can see pretty much same thinking as with Bumblebee, took out a lot of the kibble. Now you see there's a gap towards the center of his torso. Those were some wheel sections that were in there. They were sticking out a bit too much on the side, so I ended up removing those. But yeah, he's got a big gap on there. I've got him mostly displayed and facing forward, so it's not really that much of a big deal. But yeah, that's something that's on the figure there. But the back plate that he has, the back section, it's not as square. I did trim out the sides, make it a little bit narrower towards the waist to match what it looks like in the front. So got a better shape overall. And the kibble that was on his arm, that's been removed, so you can see. And again, I did give him a bit of a worn down paint job. Gave him some battle damage, just like how he looked when he was fighting on Cybertron in the movie. So there's some pieces that are just kind of scuffed off. There's some darkened sections where you can see that the paint chipped off. Gave him that look. Overall, pretty good. Not too bad, not too shabby. All right, and for this last one that I'm going to show you, it's Studio Series Dropkick. Now for him, actually, I wasn't planning on picking him up. His figure, it left a lot to be desired when I first saw him, but namely the car parts or the front of the car as his chest. It looked like it was still in one piece, and it was kind of just sticking out of the car as a whole. Didn't quite look like what he was like in the movie, so I wasn't planning on it. But when Studio Series Shatter was announced, and we got to see what she looked like. She looked fantastic, and this is of course the second version of Shatter, not the first one with the whole battle mask thing going on. So once I saw her and I knew I was going to pick her up, I didn't want to leave him without I didn't want to leave her without her sidekick or her partner in crime or whatever. So I ended up picking up Dropkick, and I customized him as well. So here's what he looked like. And last but not least, here we have Studio Series Dropkick. Again, originally not planning to pick up this figure, but once I saw Shatter, made up my mind I was going to get her. I needed to get the set, so I got them, customized them, took them apart, and there were some cable pieces just like before. There was a back section, pieces of the car came out entirely. There's some really nice molded sections on the back, namely that spine that now shows up, which is really nice. Now there were some cable pieces on his legs that had the skull and bones that you see on there. Now I wanted to retain that because it's on his leg like it is in the movie, but I needed to remove the cable. So what I ended up doing, I made some customized decals to put onto the legs themselves, and I think they turned out pretty well overall. And those 13s that you see on the doors ended up being decals as well. I wasn't about to try and paint those by hand, but they turned out pretty well. Now the blue that's around the number 13 doesn't quite match with the blue paint job itself, but overall, not too bad. I'm very happy with how it turned out overall. A lot of the details around the gunmetal sections really pop. There were some cable sections on the bottom of the doors that I cut out, and I ended up cutting them up, and I stuck them to the back of the doors that you can see sticking out on these sections here. So again, a little bit of a detail to make it more closely resemble to what you see in the movie. Alright, let's get started on customizing Studio Series Shatter. I've laid out a lot of the tools that are going to be needed here for the first phase of the build. I've got our hammer. We have here a 9-piece roll pin punch set, and we're really going to only use maybe about the first 2 of these. These are going to be mainly to take out the little pins that are in a lot of the connections there. Nice block of wood, some various size screwdrivers, and a nice towel to try to protect the figure as we're hammering into it so we don't damage it. Now, one of the first things that I like to do when taking apart a figure is to start with the easier sections first, and that's usually with the ball joints that you might more commonly see. Like we have one here in the shoulders, so we're going to take that section off just like that. There you go, pretty easy. And we're just going to put them to the side for right now. Actually, I'm going to take off the guns too. I just had them on here so I don't lose them. Okay. Come on, there we go. All right. I think that's pretty much all the ball joints she has. Now, she also has quite a bit of kibble, as you can see from the back. A lot of this is going to get lost in the final build. The front section of the plane. These turbines and the actual model itself, well, how she looks in the movie, she really only has the front sections, none of the back parts, so that's going to get removed as well. And because of that, the wings, I'm going to have to attach them to the turbine some other kind of way, and then to attach the turbines into her back. So that's going to be fun, but we'll find out a way. Next we have some screws here that we can use a screwdriver on. Let me grab that. You can see that here. You want to have a nice little cup. Keep all the screws in so you don't lose them. And this should detach. It's under pretty strong. All right. There it goes. Ah, and we've had our first breakage. See that? That's what's preventing it from just pulling out. But that's okay. This whole section, again, we're not going to use it. Put that to the side there. Let's see. So on the torso, looks like the chest is a separate plastic piece, and there's another screw back here, which is great because it's going to help us to paint it separately. The red and then the silver parts under her actual chest, and we can then reattach it afterwards. So let's grab the screwdriver again. There you go. Easy peasy so far. And I think what we have left here are just the pins that we're going to use our hammer on. Now there's some sections like where the arms were attached where it might not really be necessary to detach them because we're probably going to just paint them together, cover up this ball section here, and there's no need to take it apart, so I might just leave it like that. In fact, glue it together, not have to worry about taking that apart. So let's maybe do these, or actually I won't really need to do that either because that's part of the transformation, and we're really going to lose that as a part of the customization, so don't think we'll need to take those apart as well. Alright guys, so I've set aside the chest piece for right now and the back wing section, and we're going to focus here on the legs a bit. There's some screws, one screw on each side on the inside, so let's go ahead and take that one out. Okay. And let me take out the other one as well. Okay. Now that that's done, let's see if we can separate these. Yeah, came right apart. And I think that's going to help us in the painting process as well, keeping the colors separate. Well, this one's more stubborn. Okay. This one piece here. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they're attached more firmly, so let me disassemble this off camera and we will continue. All right, and we're back. I was able to get it separated. This one was very, very tightly put together. I think it even had some bits of glue because you can see parts of the red plastic on the gray sections there. I actually had to grab a butter knife and pry it open, so add that to your list of tools, okay? Sometimes you got to think outside the box here, but we got it. Take this piece off and we'll put them on our table here. I like to keep them nice and organized. Now, looking at the rest of the legs, these sections here that have the wider pin, those I do leave on. The way to try to take them off that I've seen is to get one of the hot irons and heat them up, and it'll help you to pop them out. But when I tried doing that in the past, what I actually end up doing is just kind of warping the plastic, so that hasn't really worked out for me. I leave them on. These little sections that are together are going to be fine, and you'll see this pin in here as well. They're not really going to get in the way of painting. We're going to paint around that. But this wing section in the back, that's not really something that was on the figure in the movie. So again, more kibble. We're going to remove this, but this is going to be a little bit of cause for concern because this back wing is what helps to keep it right up from falling back. So because we're going to be removing so much from the wing section of the back, I'm hoping that it's going to be enough where we can still stand it up. If not, we're going to have to get creative, but we'll get to that stage when we get there. So there's no real way for me to remove it without breaking it. I'm just going to twist it off. And close your eyes if you're weak to this kind of thing. Let's see. Looks like it's twisting all the way on the inside, so I might have to just pull on it a bit. There we go. Now it got twisted, but I don't think anything broke. I might actually take some hobby putty and fill in the gap, but there's ridges on the side, so that might be a bit tricky. We'll see. All right, now we've got that section there. Put this wing to the side. Same thing on the other side. There we go. That one came off easier. And put that wing to the side. Now, let's move on to the arms. Now, here we're going to have our first little pin section here. So we're going to take our hammer and we're going to take the little punch pin and take that out. Now, those little pins have a section with ridges and a section that's smooth. We want to try and take out the section with the ridges first so we don't damage the plastic, but this one's kind of stuck in there pretty deep and it's kind of impossible to tell which side the pin is. I'm almost wondering if it's not a pin actually, but let me see off camera here. Yeah, I don't think there's an actual pin in there. It looks just like a piece of plastic, so we're gonna leave that on there too. I'm trying to see if I can twist that up, but I don't want to mess up this joint here, so we're gonna leave that on there. I did manage to take off the shoulder. They just kind of slid right off, so that came off. And we'll just do the same on the other side. Shoulder comes right off. So the only real section left to do is going to be taking apart the back. And again, there's going to be a lot that we're not going to use for the final build, but we're still going to disassemble as much as we can here. Trying to see if there's any other screws. Not really. This figure has a lot of screws with the thick sections on the sides that I tend to not mess with. Even this one that I thought was going to be a regular pin has that wider section on the side as well. Now what I can do is just remove the wings at the very least from the section that we're not going to use, and it's a section that we're not going to mess with the pin itself. I'm just going to cut into the plastic on the sides and just see if I can pry that open. So that's going to be another tool. Let's grab it. Alright, I've got one of my side cutters here that I used to take pieces off of sprues, so I think that's going to be good to just cut into the plastic here. It's hard to try to not have the wing itself get in the way here. There we go. And this plastic piece we're not going to need as well. So that's going to come off too. I do want to try and get this last bit of plastic off of this screw though, or the metal pin. Yeah, it's coming off. Come on. There it goes. Alright, that one's going to be trickier. And I do want to remove this little pin section sticking out, and that's going to be yet another tool. Got our needle nose pliers for that. And there we go. This piece we're not going to save, we're not going to need it. I'm just going to toss it. Alright, let's work on the other wing here. Alright, so the wings are coming along. Still want to take these plastic leftover pieces here. Let's see, we still have the turbines. I think for this I'm just going to cut into the plastic in here. There we go. Oh, and it comes right off of that piece too. Gonna set this aside. And this we're not gonna need as well. Put that aside. So now they both look pretty clean. Set that aside as well. Now on the wings, I'm still going to take off this remaining plastic section hanging off there, and then once I do that, I'll remove that pin in the center too. We need to cut into that with another tool though. And let's keep trying here with these side cutters. All right, so we finally got last bit of plastic out on the wings and the metal pin that was there in the center. Now, one thing I'm still going to do is remove all the excess plastic that's sticking out so it can be nice and flat. I'm going to do that after the next step though. Let me lay these out. So we've done the disassembly at this point. All the pieces are pretty much apart, and even on the sections that we're not really going to use, I'm still going to hang on to them. You never know how they're going to be needed. So even these, I can just take them apart. For right now, take the last bits of wings out of there. Now what we're going to do next, we're going to take the paint off of the pieces so we can get them ready to put our own paint on top of that. So let's get that set up. All right, everyone. So what I have here is just a regular mason jar. And what I have inside is a little bit of lacquer thinner. Not a whole lot. This can start melting the plastic if we use too much, maybe about 1 part lacquer thinner. And mostly 91% isopropyl alcohol. This is going to help to get the paint right off of there. So we're going to put our pieces inside. And even the parts that we're not going to use, still going to hang on to them. I'm still going to strip them because I might find use for them later on in the build. We don't know for sure, so I don't like to throw anything away just yet. One thing to note is that the clear pieces will get fogged up. So if you're not okay with that, don't use this method. But again, this piece I'm not even really going to use, but I'm still going to drop it in there. All right, and then we'll go ahead and leave them in there overnight. We'll check back the next day and continue on with the build. And that's the first video for us today. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you stick around. Feel free to hit that subscribe and like button. I'll be showing you the rest of the build hopefully really soon amongst my other projects that I enjoy doing. Thank you so much. See you next time.